Good morning, boys and girls, or good afternoon for those that get it a little bit later, or good evening, whatever the case may be. Welcome back. We are going to continue our world of fractions, guys. We are going to continue with our fractions. And yesterday, our main focus was working on um, cross multiplying fractions. And I knew that's a new concept for us. So we're going to spend another day and break it down a little bit more and even try to watch out for some of the errors many students make so we don't copy that. But first, let's do a practice one. Let's make sure we remember how to do it. So let's take 2/3 and 3/4, and let's work on this for a second here. So remember, when we cross multiply, we start with the denominator. All right. And we're going to multiply up and across. And that's really important that you do it in that direction. I'll explain why, one of the errors that students make and how to avoid that. So when we cross multiply, we start with the denominator, go to the numerator, opposite numerator, multiply it. And whatever that number is, 3 times 3, which is 9. I write that right above. I go to my opposite or the other denominator, go to the numerator, coming across. 4 times 2 is 8. And in this particular case, we could see that 8 is less than 9, or 2/3 is less than 3/4. Now, here's an error I would like to share with you that many students do every single year. Let's take the same exact fractions. Let's cross multiply them, but this time, let's multiply going down. Let's see what happens when we do this. 2 times 4 would give me 8. 3 times 3 would give me 9. Now, if we look at the two fractions, the two whole numbers we came up with, they're opposite, right? Here, we see 2/3 had the number 8 above it. Here, 2/3 has the number 9 under it. All right, when we cross multiply, we have to go up and across, up and across. We have to make sure we're going in this direction when we multiply. So 2/3 in this particular case says it's greater. That is incorrect. That is wrong. Okay, we would not, that would just give us a wrong response. So that's one error I see many students do every year. Okay, let's work on another fraction now. Let's take the fractions 5, 6, and 7/8. Okay, so let's say I decided to use the strategy of making a model, right? We've used models all year. And in fact, even one of my previous posts, videos, I mentioned that we're using models to compare fractions in many cases. In this particular case, this sometimes turns into something that's a little difficult, and I'm going to show you why. So let me draw out two rectangles first. And one of the big problems when you are making a model and you're drawing it yourself is when you draw it, you don't always make your parts the right size. So if you look at what I have right here, right, my fractions really aren't all very equal, right? It's hard to do that. It gets frustrating to make it exact. So let's color it in. Let's see what we end up with, and let's just take it from there. All right, so I'm going to color in my 5 of 6 parts here. That's what it tells me to do, right? 5, 6. And over here, this says 7/8. I'm going to color in my cell, or shade in my 7 parts right here. And if I rely on the model, if I think of looking at a model, which side looks greater by looking at the model? Which one? Which one has more open space? It looks like 5, 6 does, right? Doesn't that look like that has more space? But let's do our cross multiplying. Let's see if that's correct or if it's accurate. So I'm going to multiply 6 times 7. Everybody, what do you get? Think about it in your brain right now. I'm going to give you a second. Okay, 42. Hopefully we had that quick. Our multiplication was really, really sharp. I hope it stayed that way. All right, and now I multiply 8 times 5, and I get 40. All right, so if I use my cross multiplying method or strategy, we're going to see that 5, 6 is smaller than or less than 7/8. So in this case, my model really didn't help me. It actually hurt me by drawing that model. which is why it's important to know more than one strategy depending on what you're running into. Right now, we had numerators and denominators that were not like, so we thought, I better do a cross multiplying. Let's do another one. Let's try one more. Now, some friends will look at a fraction, and I don't want to get into this next one too much because Mr. Popko is going to be going into a lesson, but let's say we had a fraction that said 3/2, and we did talk about that, fractions greater than 1. And I had a fraction over here that says 4/8. Now, an error many people come across is they say, well, 4 is bigger than 3 and 8 is bigger than 2. So 4/8 just has to be greater than 3/2. Well, let's do our cross multiply and see if that's true. Let's see which one of these is actually greater than the other. So let's 2 times 4 is going to give me 8. 8 times 3 is going to give me 24. That's a big difference. So from here, we know that 24 is greater than 8, which means 3/2 is greater than 4/8. All right, so I hope this cross multiplying idea is coming across. I'm going to do one more just straight out here just to make sure we have it. Let's take 5/8 and 1/2. And I want you to think to yourself right now, or if you have a piece of paper and a pencil, I would encourage you to pause this and try to solve it on your own for a moment before I actually, go over it. I want to see if you can do this between yesterday's practice and today. I'm going to give you a moment. So pause the video, solve it. Okay. Now that we're back, let's see how you did. All right. Let's see which one is greater, which one was less. So I took 8, went across and multiplied by 1. 8 times 1 gave me 8. 2 times 5 gave me 10. So 5/8 is greater than 1/2. So boys and girls, I hope this is starting to sink in. It really is a matter of practice. And to be perfectly honest with you, if you really, 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 really want to practice it, you can use that strategy for any comparison. All right, I can turn around and if I wanted to do like numerators, and if I always got confused with the bigger the fraction, bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction, if that confused me when I saw like numerators, I can use my cross multiplying for this as well. 2 times 6 is 12. 8 times 2 is 16. 2/6 is greater than 2/8, or 2/8 is less than 2/6. And that also matches our strategy of the bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. Okay, so that works for cross multiplying as well. We can go so far that if we were really, really confused with like denominators, if for some reason this just wasn't working, we couldn't figure this out, we couldn't remember the strategy. Well, even here, I can do cross multiplying. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. 2/8 is greater than 8. All right, that's if I couldn't think about it. So cross multiplying can apply to any of the fractions that we have worked on when we are comparing. All right, so guys, I hope this made a lot of sense. Make sure you do your student work today to make sure you get the proper amount of practice in it. This is a big concept, and I know being home is difficult, and I know there's distractions, and I know many of us think school is over, but it is not over yet. We will all be back next year, and all of our teachers are going to be expecting us, all of your teachers rather, in fourth grade are expecting you to have an understanding or some concepts of fractions and other things we have done. So don't let yourself fall behind. Don't let yourself become lazy. Keep putting the work in. I know it's hard, but I also know, like I said in the beginning of the year, right, this is the greatest third grade group that we've had, and we all know that you guys can accomplish this. All right, guys. Good luck, and I will talk to you guys soon.